What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and welcome back to the channel. With high demand, I'm going to be releasing this video, which is how to make a Minecraft mod without any coding or programming knowledge very easily. A lot of people have been interested in my personal Minecraft mods, and they've been wanting me to show them how to basically make mods. Now I do have a whole playlist which will be linked down below in the description and at the end of the video, which has a huge playlist full of tutorials how to make individual elements for the mods using this exact software. Today we're going to be using none other than MCreator, which is a Minecraft mod maker, and we're going to be jumping in on how to make a Minecraft mod. We're not going to go into any complex features or tutorials. This is kind of just in general how to set up your mod for the first time, how to test it in game, and how to do the basics. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. So we'll be using MCreator, and this will be linked in the downloads below, so you can check it out, follow the link and download it. And this supports up to 1.17.1, and it uses Minecraft Forge, which is the main mod loader people use, although Fabric is extremely popular nowadays too. So all we would do usually is just press download MCreator. Now this works if you want to make Minecraft 1.16.5 mods for Forge, but there is actually a beta release, and this new release basically works for 1.17.1. So just click on download, and then we want to go down and click on snapshot downloads and press download next to the latest snapshot and download it as a .zip. So this will take you to the download page, and it should manually download it into your downloads folder on Windows. And once you've downloaded it, extract it with your favorite software. That could be WinRAR, WinZip. You should know how to open up zip files by now. You can even open them up with Windows, but basically extract the zip file and open up mcreator.exe, and it will basically come up with this splash screen, and it'll say you're using an EAP snapshot. That's only if you've downloaded the test or snapshot version for 1.17.1. If you download the main stable version, it won't say this. It's basically just saying it's a test version of Minecraft for the MCreator software, so it may have a few bugs and issues with it. So just press OK, and we're going to go ahead, and I have a huge list of mods here. So if you're a subscriber on the channel, maybe you've been a member of the YouTube channel, or maybe you were a Patreon member in the past, you may have played some of my Minecraft mods. So I have all my mods down here on the left, and we're just going to create a new test mod just for the purposes of this video, okay? So we're going to go ahead and press on new workspace, and this mod display name is basically what your mod's going to be called in game. So for an example, we could just call this the YouTube mod. So let's just call this the YouTube mod, and this is the mod identification inside the programming code, so you don't need to change this. It will basically just generate it based on the display name you input. And you can also select the generator, which is what mod loader and base version of the game is your mod going to run on. So you can press the little pen here to change that. Now the recommended version on this specific snapshot is 1.17.1, but we can also go back and use 1.16.5 if you want to make a mod for that version. For an example, my mod pack and my server for this YouTube channel is currently on 1.16.5, but I do actually plan on updating my mod to 1.17.1 and the server and mod pack very soon. So if you want to check out my mods, become a YouTube member and you can join my server. But that's for another video on another topic. We're going to select the Forge 1.17.1, which is the default generator, and we can also change the name of the Java package. For an example, if you didn't want the MCreator branding, we could just remove that and just call it net.youtubemod. It doesn't really matter. This is the workspace folder. Just leave it by default because it's in the MCreator workspaces directory, so this will be easy for us to actually find it. Okay, so one other thing to mention before we get into things is we can actually make a Fabric mod. Now currently, Fabric only supports up to 1.16.3, and this generator is unofficial. It's made by members, so it's not really supported or updated very regularly, and unfortunately it also doesn't support all of the mod elements inside the mod. So if we make a Fabric mod, not only do we have to make it on 1.16.3, but we also can't make structures, we can't make fluids, we can't make potion effects, custom game rules, living entities, which are mobs, which you probably want to make. So there's a lot of different features which we can't do with the Fabric one. We could also make a Minecraft add-on, as you can see, and we can make an add-on for Bedrock, but like I said before, even with add-ons, all these X's are the things which we just can't create. We can also make a data pack, and with data packs, all you can do is make advancements, functions, tags, recipes, loot tables, and structures. There's a lot of things which we just simply can't do if we don't use Forge. So we're just going to go ahead with Forge 1.17.1, and then we're going to create this workspace. And once we do this, it will set up the whole new workspace environment for us in the software, and we just have to wait for it to set it up. It'll basically set up the Gradle files and executables, which is basically the compiler. Gradle compiles all of your Java files and makes it into a runnable Java file in game. We also set up the whole project and everything inside. So just wait for this whole process to finish. This is just setting up the work environment, making sure Java's installed properly, and you can see the progress of it is actually outputted in this small console in the foreground on the left. If you don't understand that, just ignore it. So now we have our workspace. So if you click on workspace here, now we can go ahead and we can just add mod elements. So we could basically start building on the core of our mod and add features. Now, one thing to actually notice is up here it says workspace. Now, if we go to workspace settings, we can change a lot of stuff here. So if we decide we wanted to use a different Forge version, we could backtrack to 1.16.5 or upgrade to 1.17.1. You may have a few issues with that if you're using the snapshot version though. We could also change the name of our mod, and if you've already posted your mod online, maybe you've just added some new features to it and you're ready to post it on Curse Forge and update the mod, or on something like the Minecraft forum, we can go ahead and when you make a few changes, just change the mod version to 1.1.0 and then they'll know that it's a brand new version. So there's a few things you can do here. We can type in mod description. We could just type in this mod adds cool features. For an example, we could put the author that is the Blue Crusader or whatever your username is, and if you've got a website, just put your website. I'm just going to put, for the purpose of this tutorial, just the YouTube channel link which directs to my YouTube. The mod credits, you could leave the MCreator credits in, or you could just put credits and then your username, depending if you want to show them support or not. It's really your choice. And you can select the license which you want your mod to have, which is a little bit more complex, and you probably need to read into what all the licenses mean. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. You can also add different APIs here. You can also press explore plugins. MCreator does use plugins, although we're not going to get into that right now. And just press save and it will basically save your project. As you can see, I'm going to run through what all of the tabs on the left side mean too. So under resources, you have texture files. So in here, we can create textures, which we create item textures here, or create armor textures, or animated textures for things like portals. And we can import textures from your computer for blocks, items, armor, and things like logos, GUI, and mob textures. And we can edit, duplicate, delete, and export textures already inside our workspace. That's going to be useful later when you need to use custom textures to make things like mobs, if you want to have custom content inside your mod, which you probably will choose to use. Also under 3D models and texture mappings, you can import Java models here, which is important if you're making a custom mob and you make a model in software like Blockbench, for an example. You can import it using this, and you can also import different types of models. JSON 3D files can be made in Blockbench 2, which is usually Bedrock models, and imported through here. You can also import OBJ and MTL 3D models, which are usually from 3D software like Blender and things like that, I believe. And you can also edit the texture mappings for JSON files, which are for Bedrock Edition and add-ons usually. You can also redefine the model animations. So when you import a model, you'll usually have to assign animations to each of the limbs of that model. So if an Enderman has a left arm, a right arm, and basically 2 legs, you can select the type of animation for each limb. You can also delete the models here too. It's the same for sound files. You can only use .ogg sounds, so that's the only format which Minecraft actually accepts. But if you want your mobs to have things like custom growls, death sounds, and screams, you can import them here and then use them later. Structures you can import directly from Minecraft. I'm not going to talk about how to make structures, but you can do that, and you have to make it in the MCreator version of Minecraft. And you can import custom structures here to import things like MBT files. And then screenshots here you probably won't be touching or using, but it's pretty self-explanatory. The variables category is where we obviously make variables, which we have a variable type, the name, and the space, which I don't think I've ever used. I think I might have only used that once for more complex things. Localization is for language support for the software, and then remote workspace is a little bit more complex and you probably won't use it too. But if you have a few people collaborating all on the same project, this allows you to upload your project to GitHub or basically a similar thing like GitLab or Bitbucket, and you can all work on the same project at the same time and it syncs all the files. So that's a little bit more complex, but that's a really awesome, powerful tool if you want to collaborate as a team and work on the same mod, which is probably above your skill level right now if you're just getting into the software, and you most likely won't need to use this feature. Now, inside the top category, which is mod elements, we're just going to make some simple elements and then we're going to test our mod, and that will be the tutorial just showing you the basics of the software. I actually want to create a custom dimension, and the reason I'm going to do this is because one of the most highly requested tutorial videos for MCreator which I've had in the past few months is make a video on how to make a dimension. You haven't done one on dimensions, you've done them on biomes, blocks, mobs, custom armor, but you haven't done one on dimensions. So this is also, as well as showing you how to make a mod without coding, it's kind of going to serve the purpose of also being my next MCreator tutorial. It makes you guys happy who are learning the software for the first time, and a lot of my subscribers who want me to make a dimensions tutorial. So we're going to be making a dimension. So I'm going to make a dimension, and over here we're going to enter the name. So I'm just going to do what literally every single other person does when they make a new dimension. I'm going to call it mining dimension, and this is because this is going to be a dimension that you can go to just basically with the sole purpose of mining blocks and ores. So we're going to make this pretty basic. Now for the world gen type, this affects how your dimension will actually generate, what order the blocks will be generated in and what shape they generate in, and basically the whole terrain structure. So it also shows a preview image. We have normal world, we have nether, and we have end like generator. So normal world is just like this. We have the top block, which is usually grass. We have underneath it something like dirt, and then we have things like ores underneath, okay? Nether, we have like floating islands, we have lava on the bottom, and end, we basically have small pockets of caves, and the rest is just one block. It's pretty self-explanatory if you played vanilla, but it also shows you all the features on the left side too. So we're going to select a normal world generation type, okay? So this simulates the overworld. Is most of you guys will want to make a dimension which is like the overworld. Maybe you want to create something like the Aether, which is in the sky, or maybe you want to create something which is kind of like the overworld, but a little bit different. So let me show you how you do that. So if we select normal world gem, we need a main filler block. So in the normal world, the main block of the dimension, like stone for the overworld. So the filler block is basically the main block which is going to fill the dimension. So I'm just going to select stone if I wanted it like the normal overworld, or if it was a mining dimension, I'm just going to select coal. And the fluid block is basically what fluid you want to generate in the dimension. So obviously for lakes in the overworld, we have water, and the lava we have in the nether. Since this is a mining dimension, people aren't going to be going here to actually gather water. It just makes no sense, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to generate lava here, because then what people can do is they can gather loads of ores there and also gather lava there, which is going to be useful in making a nether portal a little bit later, and just generally getting lava for many other uses. So we're going to generate lava as the main fluid, and we're going to make coal ore the main filler block. So there's going to be a ton of coal for people to collect. We can also add custom dimensions here. So if you want any dimensions from the overworld, we can actually add them. We can select singular dimensions and press add here. We can also remove the dimension by clicking it and pressing X. You can also hold shift and click somewhere else, and it'll highlight a huge bunch of dimensions. Or we can hold control and individually click and select other dimensions we want. So we could add the end dimensions onto our dimension too, and this will basically simulate the end because it will have the exact same biomes inside. This is really specifically cool if you make custom biomes in MCreator and then you can add them to your dimension, which is really awesome. Now, I'm not going to add any custom biomes right now. I'm going to leave the dimension by default, but this is a really important feature. Now, the sky and fog color override is the color of the fog inside the dimension. So if you want to have a really cool colored fog, we could add something like a light blue, for an example. We could also make it so can you sleep in the dimension or can you not sleep? If you allow it, people can sleep. If you deny it, they just can't sleep. And if you select bed explodes, well, when they sleep in a bed, it'll just blow up. You can also make players be able to respawn here. You can disable ambient light sources, which basically global light sources are disabled and the dimension will be pitch black, which you don't want to do unless you're making like a really deep dark dimension. You can also select if water vaporizes, so you can disable water. You can enable dense fog, which is obviously heavy thick fog, and you can add a skylight source, which will make the dimension have skylight in a similar world, in a similar way as the overworld has a day and night cycle. So that might be quite important if you're making an overworld style dimension. You could also imitate overworld behavior, which is also a similar thing which you might want to do for things like weather, the function of the compass, and spawning of normal creatures and monsters. So next we're going to go to portal. So to get to our dimension, how we're going to get there, unless you make some procedures or complex features or items to teleport you, you're probably just going to want a portal, right? This is where we can make the portal for our dimension. So first of all, just enable portal. Second of all, the portal frame block is the block that's used in the frame of the portal. So this is going to simulate the nether portal. So a 4x5 portal, which basically is ignited with an item, and then the portal appears and you go through it and get teleported. So our main item to build our portal frame, it only makes sense to just make it cobblestone, because this is a mining dimension and cobblestone's extremely easy to obtain. We want people to visit this dimension really early to gather resources, so we don't want to make it too hard like the nether to actually get something like obsidian for our portal. Now, the portal frame block particles are basically particle types which are emitted by the portal when it's active. So we can select explosion normal. We could actually go down and find awesome other particles here too. So there's a lot of different particles we can actually have. You can also just select portal and it'll have the pink or purple particles of the nether portal. So we'll just go with that. You can have the portal frame block sound, which is the sound emitted from the portal when it's ignited. It's best just to leave this as a normal standard portal sound, which is the same as the nether portal. We can turn up the luminance, which is the light that it gives off from the block of the portal. And we can change the name of the portal item to ignite it. So in vanilla, this would be the flint and steel to ignite the nether portal. but in our case, we're just going to call it the mining hammer, or whatever you want the item to be called. And you can just add this into the tools category. These are just procedures. You can skip these. These are just stuff to make it more advanced, which control whether the portal can actually be built and whether you can actually travel through the portal. You'd use these things for making like a boss that you have to kill, which then once you kill it, you're enabled to actually travel to the new dimension, and just things like that, but we can skip it for now. So the portal igniter, we are going to need a new texture to actually make this item. So this is where the texture creator I showed you earlier comes into place. So you can also click create texture from scratch here, and I'm going to click template, click on here, and I'm going to find some kind of base we can draw it off. So I'm just going to select any kind of texture here. I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to select that, press create, and it looks like we have some kind of handle, right? So from here, this is just where your art skills come in handy, okay? So you could just try and draw something which resembles a hammer. Now, I'm not really the best at pixel art. There's many different methods I use to actually make my item textures in my mods, which I'm probably not going to be able to share in the time frame of this tutorial. But I'm literally just going to make what appears to be a hammer really quickly. Okay, and we've already got a handle to start off, so this is actually pretty easy. So this kind of looks like a hammer, right? So I called my igniter the hammer, or the mining hammer. So I'm just gonna go around the edges a little bit here and probably touch this up here and remove some of this wood. I'm not sure if I'm actually making this any better or worse as I go on, but it looks decent. If you haven't used different shades of gray or whatever color you're painting this, like this brown here, you can go ahead, you can press this little TV noise tool, click on the texture, and then just mess around with the values, and then press OK, and it kind of adds a few different shades of colors here to make it a bit more of a better pixel art. So the texture of this is an item for the portal igniter, so just call this texture whatever your portal igniter was. Mine was the mining hammer. Press OK, and we can X this off, and then now we can go back to the portal igniter item texture and double click on this one we made, and it makes the igniter for us. There's also the portal block texture. Now, what's annoying here is it doesn't let us use the vanilla portal, so we're going to have to make one as well. Now, to do this is a little bit different, okay? Because if we use a creator texture from scratch, as you can see, we can't actually make a portal texture from here because the portal texture needs to be animated. So let me show you how to do this. So go back to the workspace without closing the dimension. Go to resources, textures, create new texture, create animated texture. And at the bottom, press add frames from template, and over here you can find a portal, and then you can select the color of the portal. So let's just make it like a green color instead, and you can also press lock saturation and lightness. And over here, now if we press play here, this previews the texture. We have an animated swirling portal texture. It's literally as simple as that. And then just press save this animated texture, make sure it's a block, and type in the name of your dimension. So I'll just type in mining dimension portal or something like that. And select the size that you want. I'll leave it on default. Press OK. We can close this and then go back to the mining dimension and a portal block texture, and now we have a portal block texture. Then on the triggers, we can add custom things which happen like events when the player goes into the dimension. So we're going to leave these because these are a little bit more complex. I have a video on procedures and a video on loads of different MCreator features for you to get up to date with the software and learn how to use it so you can do some of the more advanced things. So then press save mod element, and you have to select at least one biome to be added into the dimension, okay? So we'll just add something like, we'll just add the plains biome, just for now, just so we can actually save it. And then now it will save the dimension, and in the bottom right, it basically is saving and compiling the mod so we can use it in game. Now, while we're doing that, we are actually going to create a custom biome because it seems we do need custom biomes for our dimension. So this is the second and last thing we'll do in the tutorial. We'll make a biome, and I'll just call it the mining biome. You could call it something more interested. I'll just call it mining world, because that sounds cooler. And then we have a similar thing to the dimension setup. So the top block is the grass block, and then the underground block is basically what the dirt would be. You can also click on here. So generally, vanilla or custom grass is used here for most biomes. So the top block is usually a grass block. In our dimension, it's basically going to be the weakest ore. So the weakest ore would usually be coal, but we've already generated coal in our base dimension settings. So I'm going to make the top block here iron, which is probably a little bit overpowered, but there you go. And I'm going to make the underground block. What should I make the underground block? I could make that emeralds. Maybe this will be a world where you can easily find emeralds. And then you can mess around with things like air color, the color of the grass in the world, foliage, the water. Shall we spawn vanilla trees here? What should the height of the custom trees be, and what should the blocks be if you want to make custom trees? Or vanilla trees, which type shall we spawn? So you can spawn any of these here. Now, these won't necessarily spawn because if you select 0 trees in the features section, then they just won't spawn anyway. Now I'm going to press 0 on all of these because I don't want any of the structures or natural plants and crops to grow. And the biome default features is awesome too, because we can select, does this biome have caves, does it have ores, and does it have things like a frozen top layer, which I'm going to remove. And we can add things here. We can go inside here, we can add amethyst geodes, which would be really cool because we want geodes in because it's a mining world. It makes sense. We could add things like extra emerald ore, extra gold ore, dripstone. We could add fossils, lush caves decoration, monster rooms for dungeons, and things like that. Sediment discs, swamp clay. Just add anything that you think would be cool in your biome. And then we'll move on to structures. You can add things here. If it's a mining dimension, you probably want to have mine shafts, right? Because that makes sense. So we'll just add mine shafts in our biome. We could spawn pillager outposts, villages, strongholds, mansions, jungle temples, desert pyramids, igloos, ocean monuments, shipwrecks, and ocean ruins, which is going to spawn the mining shafts. And we could also add custom music and sounds to our biome, or particles which fall or appear around us in the biome. We can also spawn entities. So these are basically mobs. So what mobs do you want to spawn in your biomes? Now, personally, I don't really want to spawn any mobs in our biomes because this is just a mining world. I mean, you could actually spawn minecarts around, which is actually pretty interesting. But for the most part, I'm just going to leave this bare. This is just a resource gathering world. We can generate the biome in the overworld, which we don't want to do. So untick this box because we only want it to spawn in our mining dimension. We can change the weight of the biome. So how common is the biome? The smaller this number, the rarer the biome is. So if this was like 0.1, it would be super rare. If it would be 10, it would be pretty common. For biome temperature, we can actually change it as well. 0 is just like a snowy tundra and 2 is like the desert. So the lower it is, the colder it is, and the higher it is, the warmer it is. As for raining possibility, we have rain. So this is an average raining possibility at 0.5. If we have it at 1, I believe it rains all the time or very, very commonly. And I think 0, it never rains. Biome type is the temperature. So we could just select cool because it's going to be an underground mining dimension. The biome category is what the dimension should be in terms of the category. So it doesn't really suit any of these. So we're going to leave that. The biome parent, if you make something like one biome called the mining biome and then the deep mining biome, you'd want the deep mining biome to have the parent of mining biome, just so they're kind of in a group together. So this is what this means. Biome dictionary types, these are just tags. We could just add a few to our biome. Now, our biome doesn't really fall into any of these categories, but I could just add rare for an example and just press OK. And then the base height and the height variation is how high the biome actually spawns at. So this is how you can make things like mountains. If you put these values really high, you can make 2 super tall mountains, which is how I made the Alps biomes in my custom mods. And if you make them super low, you can simulate underwater biomes, which is a little bit hard and takes a little bit of messing around to do. So just press save. Then we're going to go back into our dimension. We're going to remove the plains biome and we're going to add our custom mining biome to our dimension. Press save. And now we're going to wait in the bottom for this to actually compile. When it says grayed or idle, that means the mod is saved. So then press this little play button in the top right, and this will let us test our mod for the first time. So let's get into this and try out our new mining dimension mod. I'm actually pretty excited about this, and I've probably made hundreds or tens of mods with this software before, but let's get in and test our new mod. So we're going to go ahead, we're just going to press creative, just so we can spawn items and quickly test our mod. And I'm going to make a quick new world to try out some of the features we've just added. So when we press the play button, it uses the Minecraft MCreator test environment, which basically lets us test our mod on demand whenever we want, which is a really cool feature, okay? So now we have our mod, okay? There's nothing really that stands out here, but what we do know is we made a cobblestone block as the main base block for our portal. And we put this new portal igniter, which is this mining hammer here, under the tools tab. So now if you know how to make a nether portal, basically just make a nether portal. So it would be like a 4x5, right? So just make a nether portal, and then when you've got a frame, this is obviously 1 block too high. When you've got a frame, right click with the portal igniter, and you can see we have the particles we selected and this new animated portal texture, which looks kind of basic but pretty cool. Then we go through it, and we now have a mining dimension with the biome in. If we press F3, this is our biome, which says in the top left, YouTube_mod mining dimension. So this is the biome, which is YouTube mod mining biome at the bottom left as well. And in our biome, we selected iron as the main top block and emerald as the second block. So emerald is kind of like dirt, okay? And then this is what the biome's actually going to be like. But in the dimension settings, we actually selected the main underground blocks to be all coal, and also have things like all these crops which spawn on them as well, and these lush cave features. So as you can see, we've basically made this really cool mining dimension with a biome where there's kind of an overpowered amount of ores. You're not going to find diamond in here, but you can find coal, iron on the surface, and emeralds, and a ton of stuff. So you could customize this even more and add things like mobs to it, or just make a real biome and real dimension that actually looks good. But this is just a resource world. So it's as simple as that to make your first Minecraft mod and use the software. Now I'm going to show you the final feature, and that is how to save your mod. So after you've got everything and you want to save it and share it with your friends, all you would do is you would go onto workspace and press export the mod for distribution, okay? So after the mod's compiled, it will compile it again in the bottom right of here, and you can see the progress. Then press donate if you want to support MCreator, which is a really nice piece of software, so I would recommend doing so. Or export without donating, and just save it where you want to save it, okay? So I could just save it here and just call it my mod, and just press OK. And that's literally all it does. It saves it, whichever version of Forge which you saved your mod under, which we did earlier. Then you can now install it in any version of Minecraft that runs that version of Forge. So then you can test the mod, or share it with friends, or upload it to a website like Forge for other people to test out and try. So I hope this video was really informative and useful. If you have any more questions, comment them down below in the comment section if you're stuck with this tutorial, or if there's anything which I didn't cover and you're a little bit confused with, and I'll try to answer them as quick as I can. Also like the video and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss awesome Minecraft mod videos and top 10 mod videos every single week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.